Tiger fans, this video is going to have kind of funeral vibes to it because today was a rough day for the fan base and for the Tigers. So as everyone knows, and why I'm making this video, in the span of 24 hours, the Tigers have lost Eduardo Rodriguez to a finger issue. And yesterday's game, Riley Greene came out in the third, and it turns out that he has a fracture of his fibula. My brother, who's been on here plenty of times, told me that this is something that is going to take time to heal. The 10-day IL is solely a pipe dream. It's going to be longer than 10 days. It's looking more like when he had broke his foot last year, and it was 6 to 8 weeks. And then you have to include a rehab assignment. The Tigers did exactly what they needed to do this last week. They took the series from KC. They took 3 or 4 from the White Sox. And I knew going up against the Rangers, a team as good as that, it was going to be a tall task to not get swept. Well, they ended up taking one game of that series, but the one game was minus Riley Greene. Coming into the Texas Rangers series, they were only one game under 500. Now, with the month over, Tigers had a positive record, and they sit a mere 2 games under 500. Coming into this next month, the schedule gets a lot harder. So the question is, how royally fucked are the Tigers? And is this little blip of baseball that they played great this past month? I mean, nearly a 500 team was as close as one game out of first place. It's hard to say. Now, earlier today, it was pretty much a doomsday chat between my brother and my other friend Steven, because we were all just as devastated that Riley Greene, a guy that has one of the highest averages, I think, since April 24th. He was hitting .349, one of the highest on-base percentages. He's got one of the best averages against off-speed pitches in the major leagues. I mean, he truly had broken out. You know, on this channel, my love affair with Riley Greene has been well documented since 2019. There's so many videos where I've come on here and talked about him since he was an A-ball till now. And this was his time span to, you know, he's breaking out. He's showing what everyone knew he could be. You know, his home run power hasn't been whatever, you know, it's ceiling yet. But everything else, his doubles, his robbing home runs. I mean, the other day he had that triple and tied the game against the White Sox when they had walked it off. You know, he's become a superstar. And now you look at Eduardo Rodriguez being gone. This is a rotation that Joey Wentz went 4 1/3 today, only give up 1 run, and Hinch could not wait to bring in Will Vest as quick as he possibly could because he wanted to have some kind of a positive taste in Joey Wentz's mouth today to come out and not get his head knocked in. I mean, the first inning of this game, it looked like it was going to be, you know, a laugher, but Wentz settled down and only gave up the run after 4 1/3. He had, I think, 6 strikeouts, so his stuff looked better today. But the rotation is absolutely brutal. It's completely murdered. And the thing that the Tigers don't have this year is depth. Last year when they lost Mize, they lost Manning, they had Skubal for a good chunk of the season. And they were able to bring up Bo Brisky and Alex Faedo and piece it together. And, you know, Ronnie Garcia was in the rotation. And they were able to piece it together a little bit. This year, Bo Brisky is not even close. Faedo, you know, his stuff has looked better, and he's looked better, but, you know, he had a missed start against the Rangers, and, you know, he had, a hip issue last year, so hopefully he stays healthy. Matt Manning gets injured on the most freak incident ever, and they said that Tarek Skubal is closer to coming back than Matt Manning is, so that's not exactly a vote of confidence when it comes to timetable-wise, when you got a guy who that hasn't even faced hitters in a real-time game situation, is closer to coming back than a guy that has toe broken. Casey Mize is show for the year. So now the rotation is to the point to where it's Matt Boyd, and he's been inconsistent. Michael Lorenzen, holy shit, scary thought, now becomes your best pitcher on the entire staff. Joey Wentz has been absolutely he's been shit. He's been shit. It's not even been up and down. He's been shit. And now they called up Reese Olson. Now, you guys have heard me talk about Reese Olson on this channel a little bit. I talked about him a bunch of times when it comes to prospects. He's one of the Tigers' bigger prospects. He'd come over in the trade for Daniel Norris to send him to Milwaukee. And he's had a lot of problems with his command this year. He had a 7 ERA, but his last 3 starts, his ERA, I think, is under 3. He's kind of straightened it out a little bit. Michael Lorenzen today talked about Reese Olson and how nasty his electric stuff is. But, if there's one thing we've learned in the last year when it comes to rookies making their debut, you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. And you can't expect them to be, Spencer Strider, come up and become one of the best pitchers in baseball right away. Reese Olson's another guy, typical prospect, has issue with the command, has issue with, throwing consistent strikes, but a good fastball, and he's got 3 good pitches. He was great last year, and, he's going to get a chance. So now you have a rotation that is so depleted, and you have no reinforcements on the horizon. And from what I've been reading and what they were talking about on Movie Network Radio today, this 10-day IL stint, along like what Riley Greene got, it's not going to be 10 days. It's going to be weeks. And now this really hurts the Tigers because, Erod is going to miss potentially, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Then he's going to have a rehab assignment, and that puts you right at July. And he's only going to have a couple of starts to really keep his value up what it is, because he comes back, and say he kind of shits the bed. No one's going to want him at the trade deadline. And say he comes back and shits the bed for a couple starts, and then trade deadline comes and passes, and he's good this last 4 or last 7 or 8 starts of the year. He's got to opt out, and that screws the Tigers. So, these guys being hurt not only hurts long-term effect for trade value, but now it hurts short-term effect because now they're 2 games under 500, and this division's not good. Minnesota is inconsistent, even though how good their pitching has been, because their offense is kind of they're having injury issues as well with Carlos Correa. Cleveland can't score. They're a worse offense than we are. Chicago is 10 games under 500, and their pitching is worse than the Tigers, even with how bad the Tigers' pitching is, and they have better pitchers. And KC is KC. They're a dumpster fire. But now, looking at this team, with no Riley Greene and no Eduardo Rodriguez, I just don't foresee how they're going to maintain this kind of pace. Because you look at the lineup now, Zach McKinstry, thank God, is still, he had an amazing month of May, and he's still your catalyst. Zach McKinstry is the second most important hitter in this lineup because Zach McKinstry's been setting the table, getting extra base hits, setting up Riley Greene, setting up the middle of the order. So thank God he's still around, and he's going to play a big part, and he's going to help the offense. But now behind him, you just lost your literally your best hitter, and it's not even close. Javi Baez had a horrible month after starting good. The guy's OPS is under 700. He's slugging under 400. This is not a guy that's going to carry your lineup, and he hasn't been able to carry the Tigers lineup at any which point in the whole time he's been a Detroit Tiger. He's not a superstar anymore. He's not that guy anymore. And what sucks is you got him for 4 more goddamn years because you hoping he's playing good enough to leave this year, and now he's not. He's your guy for 4 more years. And I love Spencer Torkelson, but Torkelson had hit 360 or 260 for the month, had an OPS of almost 800. But Torkelson wasn't getting on base at the same clip as Riley Greene. Torkelson's consistency wasn't as good as Riley Greene's. And Torkelson's power, he's leading the team in doubles, but it comes in more of spurts versus consistency like Riley Greene. He looked better the last couple of days. Like I said with Torkelson, his slumps are happening, but he's coming out of them quicker where they're only a couple games long versus a couple weeks long. We already saw him pull out of it a little bit. He had a couple hits today. That's fine and great and dandy, but at the pace that Greene was. I don't know if Torkelson at this point in his career and where he is in his development can put the Tigers on his back kind of like he did. Scope, sadly now he's gonna be on the team for the time being because they need depth. They need right-handed hitters and they need more depth. As many guys as they can get. Eric Haas is absolutely in a horrible slump. Jake Rogers is in a horrible slump. Andy Ibanez is starting-ish to come out of it, but he's in a horrible slump. He's not going to carry your lineup. So Nick Maton is definitely not going to carry your lineup. Matt Vierling is now hurt. You're hoping Kerry Carpenter only has 10 at-bats in AAA since coming back, and he's got 6 strikeouts and 2 hits. Now, I'm not worried about him too much because, he had missed a couple weeks and he's finally seeing live pitching again for the first time. But you can't expect him to come up, a guy, that has struck out a little bit more than he did at the clip that last year, and he's not walking as much as he did last year in the minor leagues. But you can't expect him to come up after missing all this time and getting only like a few rehab games to come up and carry your lineup. Not having Riley Greene absolutely devastates this lineup and puts it in a position to where I don't know. By the time Riley Greene comes back, by the time Eduardo Rodriguez comes back, I don't know. I don't see them as a team that played at an over 500 clip in May, as a team that their offense perked up in May, as a team that had overachieving weeks from Ibanez this month, overachieving weeks from Javier Baez this month, Riley Greene playing at Aaron Judge type hitting levels, Zach McKinstry getting on like he's Ted Williams. I don't foresee how you get another month minus literally one of the best hitters in the entire MLB right now since April 24th. How you can possibly manage to float at a 2-game under 500 pace when it took all that to even get them to 2 games under 500. As close as 1 game under 500. I don't see how you lose your best hitter. And now your best pitcher, the one guy once a week that you knew for sure you were going to get a start out of. The one guy is now gone. Your one consistent offensive piece that has been literally one of the best hitters since April 24th is now gone. And it took all these guys to overachieve for this past month to play at only a 15-11 record. That's only 4 games over 500, and it took all that to even get the 2 games under, and now they're gone. What sucks is you can see the progress in the lineup, and you can see the progress of the team, but it's going to take a lot, guys, to get this to where they're not going to fall 10, 11 games under 500 by the end of the month of June, because their offense today only scored 3 runs. Yesterday they scored 6, and then they got shut out the first game. And 2 of the 3, they had Riley Greene. I don't know. So, potential replacement options, over the next 6 to 8 weeks. I don't necessarily think right away. I wish Justin Henry Malloy was better defensively, because I think if he was better defensively, no doubt about it, they'd come up and slap him in left field. But you can't have, Kerry Carpenter and Justin Henry Malloy, 2 guys on the corners. Carpenter played right a little bit better than we thought, but he's not nearly as good as like Matt Vierling. And Justin Henry Malloy, he's honestly like a DH type right now. And you can't have 2 guys in left and right that can't really play the corners that great and then just put everything on your center fielder. And before I forget to mention this, the Tigers did get Jake Marisnick from the White Sox, and today he went 2 for 3, had an RBI hit, made a great catch first play of the game. So, you have a guy that's an elite defensive center fielder to replace Riley Greene. And honestly, Jake Marisnick's defense is right on par with Riley Greene's, probably a little bit better, even in a little bit older Jake Marisnick, because Jake Marisnick, during the Astros years, was one of the best defensive center fielders in all of baseball. This guy can't really hit. But at this point, I don't know. Justin Henry Malloy, I think he could be up sometime during the Riley Greene stretch if the offense really starts to struggle and they need somebody. Parker Meadows isn't having a good year in AAA, but he's really perked up in the last, I think, 8 games. He's hitting like 300. He's a potential guy they could call up. But, as of now, Marisnick's going to get a lot of playing time. I'd imagine he's going to platoon a lot. I don't know if they put Maton out in center. They use Zach Short out in center a little bit. Zach Short did play some outfield in AAA last year, but he's even admitted on the Compound podcast he's learning the position. But I mean, we've seen some crazy shit last year. Willie Castro, played center field for the Tigers. So I'd imagine, pending handedness, you're going to see a lot of Jake Marisnick, Akil Baddoo in center, probably some Zach Short in center, maybe some Nick Maton in center because the guy is a good athlete. Pending handedness on the mound, but this one hurts, guys. I mean, you're losing your best starter and your best hitter within the course of 24 hours of one another, and the replacement options just aren't great. And like I said, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, and they did beat a good Texas team today, but it took all those guys having certain good weeks with the consistency of Riley Greene to have a 15-11 record this past month. And now you take away your stopper and you, by far the guy that's the straw that stirs the drink when it comes to this Tigers offense, and he's gone. And I just don't see how for 6 to 8 weeks that they could tread water and keep at this kind of pace to 2 games under 500 to keep their float around 500, to keep their head above water long enough to where they get reinforcements back, that they could make a serious run at taking the Central because of how weak it is. I think with as tough as this schedule is, and with some of the hard teams they're going to be facing in June, and you don't have your best starter, and now you lost your biggest offensive catalyst, 10 games under 500 could come really fast, really fast, and I hope that's not the case. So Erod's gone, Riley Greene's gone for the foreseeable future, Reese Olson's called up, Jake Marisnick was acquired, and like I said, I think we might see some appearances from Parker Meadows and Justin Henry Malloy over the next 6 to 8 weeks, maybe not necessarily right away, but it's going to be interesting, guys, and this is a big blow. So that's all I got for you guys today. I'll be back Sunday to talk about the week that was, but this one hurts, guys. Go Tigers.